Welcome everyone. I'm Meg Phillips and it's my pleasure today to act as MC for this exclusive webinar presented by the Monash Business Awards and to raise awareness for mental health, particularly post-traumatic stress disorder in these uncertain times. This has been made possible by the wonderful support of all our sponsors. Our major sponsor is the City of Monash, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to councillors and staff from the City of Monash. Brighter, an initiative of APPEA, the Australian Petroleum Production and Exploratory Association, KR Equipment Solutions. They're an exclusive distributor for Capolato truck-mounted vacuums and high-pressure systems, and I'd like to welcome Steve Putris. Sharrock Pittman Legal, they've been in Glen Waverley for 50 years, and I'd like to welcome Mitchell Zadal from Sharrock Pittman Legal. Huntingdale Golf Club, and we are really looking forward to them reopening, and welcome to Alex from Huntingdale. Waverley BMW in Glen Waverley. Mark, who's our point of contact, has looked after many of our attendees' needs with new cars. The Carbon Group, this was previously the Ross Group in Mount Waverley, and I'd like to welcome Ash Ross and Igor. Big Fish Recruitment, and I'd like to welcome Nikki Braybrook from Big Fish. And our gold sponsor, Westpac, and I'd like to welcome Julian. Our agenda today, the welcome, and in the spirit of reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet on and pay respect to elders past, present and future. We'll then move to our nominee presentation, and we have three nominees presenting today, and then welcoming our guest speaker, Peter Bellion, who will be talking about PTSD. We welcome all questions from the audience, and we intend to wrap up by 1:30. Just some housekeeping. We do welcome any questions you may have for Peter Bellion, our guest presenter, and at any time through this webinar, you may have some questions. So please feel free to send them through. You should find the question panel on the right side of your screen. So firstly, I'd like to welcome our nominees. Our nominees presenting today, please raise your hands when I mention your names. These are Martin Premachandra from Blue Sky Services, Anita Patjarajan from Anitech, and Minerva Jimenez from Minjum's Foods. So representing our professional services category, we invite Martin from Blue Sky Services to present his business. Thanks, Martin. It's over to you.
Thanks, Meg. So my name is Martin Premachandra from Blue Sky Services. We are a commercial cleaning, maintenance and facility service provider based in City of Monash. The business has started in Mount Waverley about 12 years ago. We obviously had a very humble start, starting from back of a house in a shed, and now we are operating in Notting Hill in two facilities. We have over 185 staff working in the business at the moment, and we are servicing predominantly commercial facilities, council buildings. We work for City of Monash, City of Stonington, City of Maroondah, City of Melbourne likewise, and 50% of our other work is mainly with healthcare facilities, local public and private hospitals. We are a service business. We have over 185 staff, and our staff retention has been measured as part of our quality management system, and our staff retention is over 85%. Compared to the industry, it is about 55-60. We have really high staff retention, and I'm quite proud about that. And one of the best things being in the city of Monash is the support that I get from local businesses. We have 90% of our suppliers are based in city of Monash, and we are working with them quite closely. One of the main things to talk about, one of the memorable things rather to talk about the business is how we manage this whole COVID pandemic situations and how we manage as a business. And even though the country is facing a bit of a recession, people are losing employment, we've managed to upskill, we've managed to employ more staff to our business over the last few months, and we have employed about extra 20 people into our business. So I believe my 2 minutes are up now, so thanks, Meg.
Thanks, Martin. It's really good to hear that you have been able to employ more people, and a great credit to your business with your retention rate as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another nomination that we have in the professional service category is Anita Patcharajan from Anitech. Please go ahead, Anita.
Thank you, Meg. Thanks everyone for having me. So Anitech was established as a startup at the Monash Incubation Centre, now EIBC, with a focus on process and IT consulting. And we have been supporting small to medium enterprises for over 15 years based in Mount Waverley. Our clients include small to large businesses as well as government organisations. Risk and compliance obligations are big factors in conducting business in Australia. We just need to see how regulated we are in the post-COVID business environment, whether it's the Corporations Act or OH&S Acts or regulations, environment regulations. Australian businesses generally operate in a highly legislated environment. There are roughly 98,000 pieces of legislation in Australia, according to a popular legislation website. So therefore, we target customers, or our customers are generally clients that need support with managing their risk and compliance activities. Often it's because they have a lack of resources or a lack of competency in that area. We provide risk and compliance services across manufacturing, construction, pharmaceutical, IT, any business if you've been operating for at least 2 years. And our core services are in management systems, technology solutions, and occupational hygiene and health services nationally. We have a team of 18 plus full-time staff and access to more professional networks across Australia. And we keep customers at the centre of everything we do. We want to be part of the sustainable growth objectives for our clients, and we have a passion for problem solving. We do this by engaging with great minds, adaptive culture, and really supporting digital transformation across small to medium enterprises across not only Monash, but across Victoria and Australia. We have 1,500 plus clients across Australia, much of them SMEs, and our return on investment from our clients it relates to product recalls, the cost savings associated with product recalls, productivity costs, workers' compensation claims, WorkSafe prosecutions, or cybersecurity attacks. We have a customer satisfaction rating of approximately 95 to 98% year on year, and we've been working with clients more closely and with deeper engagements to this current COVID-19. In fact, we've increased our staff by 4 during this period, and we've gone strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. That was really great to hear about your contributions to the community and to the wider community in Victoria and Australia. And also really great to hear that you started off at the incubator, which is now the Eastern Innovation Centre. There's been some fabulous businesses come out of there. So good luck with your nomination, and all the best.
Thank you.
Now, last but not least, we have Minerva. Hi, Minerva. Minerva represents the Innovation and Technology nomination category. Let's hear about your business.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So my name is Minerva Jimenez, and I'm the founder of Minton's Foods. Our kitchen is based in Chaston, and we have received a really huge support from Monash Council to approve our kitchen and ongoing support. And we have been trading for 1 year. So I'm a food scientist with over 13 years of experience in the food industry. I'm passionate about food product development, and I'm also a mom of a 3-year-old girl. Her name is Sophia, who has been my inspiration for this business as I become more healthy conscious when I have her. According with ABS report in 2017 and 2018, just 1 in 17 kids are eating the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables. And not just that, 1/3 of the calorie intake is coming from junk food. So at Minton's Foods, we develop a unique and healthy chilled sweet spread that is based on lentils, fruits, and vegetables, nothing else. We don't have any refined sugars or artificial ingredients. Our products are very versatile, and 100 grams of product contain 1 portion of fruits, 1 portion of almost 1 portion of vegetables, protein, and fiber. We have 3 delicious flavors: raspberry, cocoa, and chai, and you can use as a spread on your toast, as a dip for your fruit, as a condiment for your porridge, or even as a dessert by the spoon. Our target markets are moms with kids between 2 and 9-year-olds. We were selling at farmers markets, and we moved to online store due to the COVID restrictions. So we recently launched our online store 2 months ago. And since then, we increased our social media followers by 80% as we were doing a lot of work in marketing, or more than before. We received a grant from the government, from the Artisan and Craft government grant to increase our capacity in a 30%. And also we got into the finalists in the Food and Beverage Award as a startup of the year. So help us to spread the health, and thank you.
Thanks, Minerva. It sounds really interesting. I know that a lot of parents are looking for sugar-free snacks and toppings, and with any luck, we'll be open soon. Then you'll be able to go back to the farmers markets.
Yes, and exactly. And I forgot to mention that one of my biggest rewards or good moments is to see kids enjoying a product, having happiness to enjoying something that they think is like a dessert, and at the same time they are eating lentils, fruits, and vegetables. So yeah.
So it's great to see that you're putting your food technology skills to use as well.
Yes.
So we're going to ask all of our nominees one question and ask them to answer in a couple of sentences. So the last couple of months have been tough for all of us. In a couple of sentences, what are the most positive moments of 2020 for you? Martin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Meg. We, as a commercial cleaning business, we have been engaged to service Ambulance Victoria emergency vehicles. And over the last 4 weeks itself, we have serviced over 5,500 vehicles, cleaned within a matter of 25 minutes and getting them back on the road. So we are quite proud to be part of the actually we are quite proud to be part of the contribution back to the society and trying to work with the frontline workers to make their job easier. And my business and my people, my staff, we're very proud about it, and I'm very proud about my staff who have helped to the society. So I think that's one of the things that I can be really proud about as an owner of the business and as a human being. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anita, what's the most positive moment of 2020 for you?
Being in management consulting, if anyone is from this background, it's quite a tough environment, very challenging and very competitive. I think one of the important things we realised is the recognition of the importance of empathy and support for our staff. We were really able to acknowledge and adopt the personal and professional challenges of our employees and their loved ones, which we experienced through the crisis. So we, worked remotely with all our team, as well as connecting with our clients remotely whenever we could possibly do it. The art of collaboration, we weren't as collaborative before, but now we are. We were able to promote rapid problem solving and execute projects under high stress, very chaotic conditions, changes from week to week, and really resulted in deeper engagements with our clients. And therefore, we did about 40 to 60 projects month to month with various clients and supporting essential businesses to keep operating. So we were part of that. The other part is effective communication, I guess. And and being optimistic and yes, realistic, but optimistic and positive, and that the world's not going to end. We're still going to continue. We're here to support our clients and our employees. I think these are some of the three I feel the most wonderful aspects which I could self-reflect on. And of course, being nominated here, this has been wonderful. It's just opened me again to a wider network of people. So I'm really grateful to not only Monash MBA Awards and EIBC as well for working with us.
Thank you, Anita. And Minerva, what's been the most positive moment for you in 2020?
I think that the thing that I was able to adapt to the COVID restrictions and launching an online store, even if I have my technical knowledge is more in terms of research and development, so I have to learn a lot to build a website and all that, and also about partnership and collaborations, how powerful they are. So because of this situation, I started looking for collaborations with other small business here in Monash, and trying to support each other, promoting in our social media, doing some, for example, takeaways, and also I do the delivery for you. So for me, I think that the most thing is this part about collaboration and how powerful they are.
Well, many thanks to our nominees today for talking about your business and those insights into what's positive for 2020. You've certainly all been involved with some really interesting and relevant work. In normal circumstances, we would now present you with certificates to say that you're a nominee, but this is not possible. So we'll get them to you when we are able, and when we're able to visit your sites as part of the next stage of the nomination process. Thank you all for your insights and telling us about your businesses today.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So nominations and nominees are such an important part of our Monash Business Awards program. And we're always looking for businesses in our municipality that are leaders and emerging leaders in their field to nominate. The benefits are numerous and provide really good recognition amongst your peers and the Monash network. If you're a business or you know of any business that is registered in the City of Monash that is worthy of nomination, please be sure to go to our website, monashbusinessawards.com.au, and find out how it's done. It's quite a simple process. And to our audience, if you have any questions for our nominees or would like to get in touch with them, please contact Lisa at executive-director@monashbusinessawards.com.au. So the impacts of COVID-19 lockdown restrictions are not merely economic. Many people have also reported significant emotional and mental health problems. Peter Bellion is a former crash scene investigator and reconstruction expert from Victoria Police's Major Collision Investigation Group, and he knows firsthand what it feels like to be stuck by post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, whilst on the job. Over Peter's 30-year career with Victoria Police, he attended more than 2,000 fatalities, including the deaths of 20 police officers. Continued exposure to traumatic events, including the Kerrang rail disaster and the Burnley Tunnel traffic tragedy, eventually took their toll and he was diagnosed with PTSD. But originally, Peter intended to join the RAAF, and he did an engineering degree instead, specialising in traffic engineering. This involved reviewing speed limits and the introduction of speed cameras, and he often worked closely with the police. He joined the police soon after graduating with his degree, and he worked in the southeastern suburbs. He became a specialist in accident reconstruction, and he was an advisor to the Road Safety Committee. In 2009, he was awarded the Australian Police Medal, one of only 6 members to receive this award. But after 30 years of service, he retired in 2016, having spent the last 10 years of service with PTSD. In 2018, he was awarded the Victoria Police Star, which is awarded to members who have been seriously injured or died while working. Peter has been involved very closely with one of our sponsors, the Huntingdale Golf Club, since he was young. He captained the Division 1 pennant in the mid-1980s, and he's been on the board for 10 years, and he spent 2 years as captain. He's also involved in training programs such as the Thin Blue Line for members with post-traumatic stress disorder, and he's an active member of the Port Melbourne Life-Saving Club. It is my honour to present to you Peter Bellion. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Meg. Thanks for having us along today.
You're welcome. And Peter, can you tell the audience a little bit about your role in reducing the road toll?
One of the things I was responsible for probably the mass introduction of speed cameras back in the 1990s. It was as a result of a report I did in 1986 as an engineer in my final year degree, and that report went along to Victoria Police, what was then Vic Roads or Roads Corporation, RACV, and that had 32 recommendations in it. And one of those main recommendations was the mass introduction of speed cameras to reduce the tolerance on speeding, because the crash rates identified that speed was a huge issue back then. Police weren't actually stopping people until they were doing about 20 k's over the speed limit back then. Cameras came in 1990s. 1989, we had 770 people killed on Victoria's Road. Initially, the tolerance from say 20 k's over in a 60 zone went down to about 10% +3, and as a result of that, there were 270 less deaths in a 12-month period. The prosecution rate initially was up around 80%, and then that dropped down to 2.4%, but now's less than 1%. So speed reduction has been a huge factor, and that's because as an engineer, when you design a road, you design for stopping sight distance based on the speed that you're designing for the road. And if somebody's travelling too fast, well, it throws everything out of kilter. It throws all those stopping distance calculations out, as do perception and reaction delays, because your stopping sight distances in road design also take into account those factors. So if you've got somebody that's fatigued, say been awake for 16 hours, that's the same crash risk as driving with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05. If you're awake for 24 hours and driving, that's the same crash risk as a blood alcohol concentration of around about 0.2. 65 k's in a 60 k zone in an urban environment is the same crash risk as 0.05. If you're doing 80 k's in a 60 zone, it's the same crash risk as a blood alcohol concentration of 0.2. Mobile phones, touching a phone, talking on a phone, texting on a phone, or even touching the satellite navigation devices or a visual display unit in the car is a huge distractive effect. And the research shows that even with those systems, it's still equivalent crash risks of somewhere between 0.04 to 0.09, depending on what you're doing. And in some instances, texting is actually worse than being completely drunk behind the wheel, because you're not watching what's going on in front of you. Other things that come into causing road deaths is poor eyesight, being inattentive, talking, being distracted, could be medical reasons, and things like that. There's been a lot of things to reduce road toll. Speed cameras was the main one because the speed's around about 30% of it, but alcohol is also about 30%. With improved vehicle technology with various vehicle systems, airbags, initially frontal airbags, now side airbags, seatbelt pretensioners, energy absorbing steering wheels, crumple zones on vehicles, improving the roadside environment, sealed shoulders, barrier systems off the side of the road, and general improvements in vehicle design. So they're a number of things that have reduced it. But when you look at the road toll in general, over 90% is human error still. So it's people doing the wrong thing. And generally that's 1 in 10, day in, day out. So and it's always going to happen when somebody's pressured for time, but the reality is even if you're making the trip and your speed, you're not going to get there any real faster because the way the road network is set up with the timing of traffic lights and all that sort of stuff. You can drive flat out and put extra more wear and tear on your car and use more petrol, and you might get there 2 seconds earlier, but it's not worth it because it only takes a second for everything to turn pear-shaped on the road, and either your life is taken, or you're being seriously injured, or one of your loved ones has been seriously injured or killed, or you've killed or seriously injured somebody else.
Peter, getting onto the subject of post-traumatic stress disorder, for the audience that may not be familiar with PTSD, can you go through some of the symptoms for both early and later stage PTSD?
Yes, so PTSD basically evolves from, in terms of a military or first responders role, we're basically doing things that human beings aren't designed to do. We're going into a fight or flight situation as part of our work. Now, initially, as a young military personnel or young first responder, in your training, you'll have instructors that will yell commands at you and get you to work through your fear flight process. Like if you've got the cat that's being chased by the dog, well, generally the cat will try and get the hell out of there, and that's because it's that fear flight that wants to run away. Well, as a first responder, you can't run away. So each time you go and attend an event, there's a thing in the brain called the amygdala that controls your fear flight, and because you've got to go in, you are getting adrenaline released into your body to allow you to respond to that incident, and you're also getting cortisol, the stress hormone. Over time, as you go to more and more events, your risk assessment is getting higher each time you go to an event. So over time, you're getting more and more adrenaline and cortisol being dumped into your system. What that leads to then is initial diagnosis of what's called post-traumatic stress disorder, and the symptoms will be things like waking up in the middle of the night with everything going a million miles an hour. You'll be sweating, the heart rate will be going. You might have some tremors and shakes. You might be waking up trying to yell out, police don't move, going through a situation where, they've got 2 shotguns, 3 knives and a long blade screwdriver put on you as well. So you're going through those, might be going through the memory whilst you're asleep, and then all of a sudden, bang, you're awake, and it's, then you've got to learn to calm everything down. So initially I used to get up and do a lot of training at that point in time. I'd go pump some weights, do a 10K run, 30K bike ride, and then go into work at 7 a.m. in the morning. You get home at the end of the day and you're absolutely stuffed because, you've been going so hard. So that's how I initially dealt with it, even though I didn't know that I had PTSD at the time. But that was probably the first inklings of what I had. So I worked with that, and had a little bit of assistance early on in the piece, but effectively, went back into the coalface, into the front line. And what that ended up doing was basically making that PTSD into what's called chronic PTSD. So it's like riding waves. You're getting that anxiety response, which is when the job's on, and it's go, 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 go. And then you're coming into the post-job phase where you're tired and emotional, and over time that becomes a depressive response. So what people will try and do is, in that anxiety response mode, they want to calm things down. So what they'll resort to is things like alcohol or drugs to calm things down. It could be alcohol or cannabis, a depressive substance, for example. But then they'll get into the post-job phase where the emotions and you're tired, which then becomes a depressive response. And if you've had a depressive substance like alcohol or drugs, then that depression can become deeper. So then the next step is potential suicidal thoughts, and if it spirals out of control, can lead to suicide, which for 30% of our military and first responders end up with post-traumatic stress disorder, or post-traumatic stress injury it's called now. And out of every, say, person that dies on the job, either in a car crash or being shot and killed, there's probably around about 8 to 1 in the police and also in the military that actually die from suicide because they haven't been able to manage their post-traumatic stress disorder later on. In the chronic format, it can cause bloating in the stomach, it can cause bowel cancer issues, it can cause Alzheimer's or dementia, and it can also cause cardiovascular disease. So I've actually had some bowel issues. I've had 3 colonoscopies over the last few years and had a bit of stuff cut out, but all good at the moment. So that's something just has to be regularly monitored. I ended up with 35% of my brain has been traumatically affected from what I went to. Anything over 30% is classified as a serious injury. And I've also got 1/5 of my total body area covered in what's called psoriasis, which is basically from too much cortisol being released in your body, and over time that causes things like psoriatic arthritis, which I'm starting to get a little bit now.
That's a big effect on the body, isn't it? So
yes.
with COVID presenting new challenges and possibly a new cohort of people, such as business owners who might develop PTSD or related mental health issues, can you suggest any preventative measures that would minimise the onset?
Well, first thing is, if you notice that you are struggling, the first trip is to go and see your GP, general practitioner, and speak to them about what's going on. In any, to attack any sort of mental disorder, you will have that anxiety and depression goalposts. So those goalposts have to be attacked first off, and he'll refer you to, or she will refer to a psychologist to look at something like, could be like eye movement desensitization treatment. It could be cognitive-based therapy. It could be exposure-based therapy. It could be utilising a thing called EFT, or emotional freedom techniques. But also they will refer you to a psychiatrist, and they will speak to you and find out your situation and put you on a medication regime to control those goalposts and bring them in a bit narrower. And then you can use other things like breathing control, progressive muscle relaxation, meditation apps on your phone such as Calm or Breathe or Aura or Equipped, and they'll talk you through, and you listen to them at the night time to basically calm your body down, to allow you to wind down and slow down and get back to sleep. Because the COVID situation has put a lot of businesses under pressure. A lot of one of the big things associated with stress is also financial stress. So a lot of people are going to be under financial stress, and that will cause problems with anxiety and depression also.
So how can workplaces be more open to people being assisted to deal with these mental health issues, or even just raise them with employers?
Well, as a leader in a workplace, you've got to have a good understanding of your staff. You need to know, what's going on, and be aware of, what's happening on the home front. You've got to make sure that your staff have an appropriate work-life balance. It's just not all work, you know, that there is that home balance as well. And that's most important in, you know, moving on. You also got to make sure that your staff are having appropriate social networks as well. You know, one of the big things about policing or frontline emergency response or military is over time you lose your social groups that you had when you were younger and growing up, and then you get involved in these groups that's just all police or all military or ambulance or whatever. So the things that you used to enjoy that you're doing when you're growing up, all of a sudden they get pushed aside. So it's important to try and keep those connections. Now, from a boss's point of view, if you've got a worker that in has been, generally it's the high achiever that will end up with some sort of mental condition or breakdown, because they're giving everything to get the job done and improve, and you know they want to move up the food chain and impress people. You know, it's people that are a little bit perfectionist traits that might end up with these conditions. But you might notice all of a sudden, instead of the work getting done, the folders on the desk are starting to pile up, and indicating that they're not actually getting through the work. And that's because, you know, they've got to a point where, you know, a mental illness is starting to kick in, and they're having trouble with attention and concentration, which is one of the side effects or symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder or other mental conditions. So all of a sudden you might find that the work's not getting done where it previously was done. So rather than clamping down on that person, oh, you haven't been doing this and this, you know, you go the approach, well, you know, is there anything, what's going on? Can we have a chat? Do we need to help you out in some way? You know, can we offload some of this work to somebody else? You know, do you need to have a little bit of leave? Do you need to, you know, do a bit more relaxation, or even have some programs in the office where you might have a group meditation session or a group training session or something like that makes it a better workplace.
So with first responders, service personnel, healthcare personnel having to leave their jobs due to PTSD, they'll move into civilian jobs, into the workplace. So this could be in a variety of workplaces. So have you got any tips that employers could do or better do to help them to manage their PTSD?
Well, certainly, you know, an employer moving on from one of those careers, you need to let the people know that you actually have got that, so that they're aware of that, and have that conversation about what are the effects of that condition, so that they understand, and they don't then have that stigma or put you down as a result of what you've got, because you can still be quite effective as a person working with that condition, but you know, some people might treat them otherwise. So what you've got to remember is that somebody that's got that condition, we've got to treat everybody with respect. And one of the first things in dealing with, you know, somebody that's a mentally impaired person I might have come across in the front line, whether it be policing or at the Lifesaving Club where I've come across somebody, or even in my role at the golf club I've come across people, is to, you know, initially treat that person with respect, develop a rapport, listen to what they're saying, and have an understanding of what they're saying. You know, don't just go in hammer and tongs.
You mentioned earlier some strategies, and I've also noticing on my screen that I've got a question come through. Very next question I was going to ask you. What are some strategies that assist you best when you feel that you're about to be triggered?
So one thing I used to get in the car was I'd get some sharp pain in the lower back. So I have a little stress ball that I might just jam between the lower back and the back of the car, which is like would relieve that trigger point. So that's one thing I would use. Certainly the tapping solution, you know, you can get used to using that if there's various books on that. For example, EFT for PTSD by Dawson Church. the complete PTSD recovery process by David Redboard. They're available, and one of the big things I used to use was also this Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement by Kevin Gilmartin. So I've read all those books from front to back and have a complete understanding. So there's other things like the progressive muscle relaxations. That's basically going from head to toe, squeezing the muscles of the body progressively, and then letting it all go. And as you're doing that, you're breathing in and breathing out slowly. If you find you're getting stressed or anxious, there's the 4-4-4-4 rule with breathing. So you can take a big deep breath in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, let it out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and repeat that process 3 times. And that has the way of relaxing your body down. The meditation apps I talked about, you can download things like Calm, Breathe, Aura. You can download them, and they talk you through a meditation process. And it just gives your brain a chance to wind down. Particularly, I do it, once I get into bed, I might just turn it on, and it just relaxes your whole body down and helps you sleep better. Other things I'll do, say at 2 o'clock, one of the times that I would typically wake up in that fight or flight mode as a result of stuff I've gone through in the past would be around that 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. So everything's going, heart rate's going, the sweat's going, you might have the tremors and the shake. So I will actually do specific stretches in the body, mainly to open the front half of the body. So some hip flexor stretches, because the hip flexors are attached into the adrenal glands, and that can help get rid of that bloated stomach sensation that you might get, because you get the bloated sensation in your guts because it's trying to protect your guts for that fight situation. So it's pushing your guts out from protecting you from a whack in the gut. So it's pretty uncomfortable. So you're trying to relieve that by that hip flexor type stretch or opening in front of the body.
So what message, Peter, would you give to employers about the benefit of a positive mental health message in the workplace?
I think it's most important to have some sort of programs associated with all businesses, awareness campaigns, some sort of awareness training, also, some sort of stress relief programs, teaching, you might even get somebody in to teach your people emotional freedom techniques, or teach your people about progressive muscle relaxation. They're important techniques, and explain why they are important, not just get them along to do them. You've got to explain why they're necessary, how it actually assists you in moving on a day-to-day basis.
So some colleagues might need support or assistance dogs in the workplace. How do you think employers could best accommodate that?
Yeah, well, assistance dogs are like guide dogs. The law allows them to go into any place. I actually trained a guide dog up and actually brought it down to the golf club a couple of times when I was training it. The assistance dogs are there to help. They distract a person that might suffer from anxiety. So if they're having an anxiety attack, that dog will actually know what's going on, and it will do something to distract that person's thoughts away from what was going on that was causing that anxiety response to calm them down.
So would you say that some individuals are more prone to PTSD than others because of their personality? I know you touched on perfectionism before.
Yeah, that's probably one of the main ones. Is it's generally the high achievers that, or ones that really want to make a difference, that tend to get it. It's in the military. It's the ones that might storm out of cover, and when their mates are taking fire, and do some tombstone courage act to break up that situation. So they're right at the extreme of that fear flight response in doing that. And in my case, it was getting called out a lot from in the middle of the night, where you're going from dead sleep to bang, full on response. So you're going from 0 to hero straight away. So it's it's a pretty extreme set of circumstances.
It is. I can see I've got some questions coming in from the audience. I've got one here from Nikki. Employees who are experiencing issues often won't say anything because they think it will affect their job. How would you suggest that employers deal with this?
Well, that's the thing. That's where the stigma can come in. If the business or employees have an open policy about, okay, if you are struggling, we want to help you. We want to get you better. We want to get you assistance, rather than, oh, that person's got this. They're no good forever and a day. They won't get a promotion. So that whole attitude's got to change.
I've got another question here from Narelle. What organisation would you turn to first for assistance?
Obviously in the, some very dark times, going back a few years ago, you've got lifeline numbers. I also had access to a counselling number through Victoria Police Association, and I can remember talking to them and walking around the streets and with suicidal thoughts back then when this was all going on. And you occasionally, you still get, you might be out walking and all of a sudden a suicidal thought will just come out of absolutely nowhere, and you go, where the hell did that come from? And that's sort of an indication to go back and have a check-in with my treaters. And as a result of this lockdown, where we haven't been able to play golf or haven't been able to go to lifesaving club tours and main outdoor activities I've actually had to tap back in with my treaters and look at a slight medication change throughout this COVID lockdown procedure myself.
It's not a question, but it's actually a comment from Nabil. He said, what an amazing story. Humans weren't designed to have that level of stress ongoing. We take so much for granted for not being on the front line. They are the real heroes. So,
yeah, thank you. That's very nice.
Yeah. And one more question I have here. What key strategies would you give the audience to manage stressful situations?
Well, the key thing is to keep calm in a stressful situation, and obviously breathing control is paramount. You've got to be able to, I can still deal with pretty high intense situations. I've had a guy at the lifesaving club approach me with a gun, and I had a gentleman in the car park at the golf club 6:30 in the morning, going back 12, 18 months ago now, that was very, very emotionally disturbed. So you got to stay calm and relaxed. Problem is now is if I deal with something like that now, straight afterwards I get a massive effect, and it's learning how to deal with that straight after. Like I've got certain medication I can take in really bad circumstances, but things like your tapping solution, the EFT, the breathing control, the progressive muscle relaxation, certain stretches, you've got a toolbox, and you basically work out what's going to work best at that particular point in time.
I've got something else here. Thanks from Anita, one of our nominees. Thanks for sharing your incredible journey, and congratulations on managing this disease and being an inspiration. Are you involved in any work health and safety prevention activities with the next generation of regulatory staff, such as police, inspectors, etc., so that we limit this exposure to the future generation? We seem to have some difficulty in Peter's connection there. I'll just move along a little bit. There are links in the handout section for people, a list of organisations in that handout section that you can download. I did also get some comments that people were not able to see the video, so I think we probably will be putting that link up for you as well. I'd just like to thank Peter for giving us some really interesting insights today and some excellent takeaways that we can think about to implement in our own lives and for the lives of those that we care about. And even though I can't see Peter at the moment, thank you so much for coming to speak with us. So COVID-19 has had a massive impact on our mental health. So if you or anyone close to you are experiencing distress or need help, there are many organisations that you can reach out to. A list of the organisations is in the handout section. And Peter, you're back. You probably missed.
Yeah, we had a slow connection issue. Everything went a bit frozen. It was a bit like one time when I was giving evidence by a video link to Mildura, and it all went slow, you see.
So I will thank you once again, even though you weren't there. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for the insights. I do hope that our audience has received a lot of helpful information with what you've given us today.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work going on with police veteran support. There's also an advertisement I did for Department of Human Services, which if people want to have a look at, they just search my name onto YouTube. You'll see the ad I did for Department of Human Services. It's time to talk about mental health. And I'm also involved with VicPol Fighting PTSD Group, the Thin Blue Lines, Strongest of the Thin Blue Lines, Code 9 Foundation, and Victoria Police Legacy. So they're all programs to assist veteran police officers and families.
I've just got some final comments coming through before we close. Here's one from Lisa Westgate. She was a first responder in the ambulance. She speaks to recruits at the Police Academy fortnightly on these issues. And then a comment from Jeff Webb. Peter, you are amazing. Thank you for your contribution to human safety. Another comment from Nabil. Excellent, thank you. And in regards to Anita's question, very relevant. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time. We've got about a minute left. So thank you, Peter. I'm sure that the audience would love to ask you a lot more questions, and you've got a lot more to say on this topic. I'd also like to thank our 3 nominees today for presenting. Martin from Blue Sky Services, Anita from Anitec, and Minerva for Minjums. To the audience, as part of our presentation, the handouts with some useful information are available to download. There's a nominee form should you wish to nominate yourself or a business that you know of within the City of Monash, as well as some information regarding PTSD and mental health. And we're always looking for new ideas that will help our local businesses and the community. So we urge you to fill in the survey that you'll receive post-webinar, and you'll also get a link to the recording. Our next event will be on Tuesday, the 29th of September at 5:30 p.m, where we'll hear from our sponsors and local businesses on how they're pivoting in the COVID climate. So please go to our website to find out more and to look out for our newsletter on how to get involved. So on behalf of the MBA committee, thank you very much for attending, and we hope that you had an insightful lunchtime. Thank you, and thank you especially to our guest, Peter, and bye for now.